Kayla adjusted the straps of her combat harness as the Voron cruiser glided through the black expanse of space. Her eyes, a sharp shade of violet common to her species, scanned the holographic star map hovering in front of her. She tapped the controls, marking a small, rocky planet that had been the site of countless wars decades ago. The report said nothing had survived there except for scattered artifacts left behind by an ancient human battalion. Kayla snorted quietly. Humans. She had grown up listening to the old legends of human warriors, told by her grandparents and archived in the Academy records. According to those stories, humans could face armies 10 times their size and still win. They could survive situations no alien could endure, and their ingenuity on the battlefield was unmatched. But Kayla had never believed it. They exaggerate, she said aloud, even though the ship's AI could hear her. Humans were weak. They were primitive. How could such a species ever be legendary? The AI's calm voice answered, "Records indicate humans achieved victories against overwhelming odds. Their strategic capabilities were noted by multiple species across the galaxy." Kayla waved at the AI. Yes, I know the records. But stories are often stronger than reality." Her curiosity, however, was stirred. She had been chosen for this mission because of her intelligence and boldness. She was to scout the planet, analyze any remnants of ancient battles, and report anything that could be of strategic value. She wasn't here to be impressed by old myths. When the cruiser entered the planet's orbit, Kayla leaned forward in her seat. The planet was barren and desolate. Mountains of jagged rock rose from the surface, and deep canyons ran like scars across the land. The scars of war were still visible. Scattered around the plains were the remains of armored vehicles, some burned out, others crushed by the weight of fallen mountains or abandoned during battle. Kayla felt a strange sense of awe as she descended toward the surface. "So humans really fought here," she murmured, her voice softer than usual. She had never thought the stories could be true, but seeing this ruined landscape made her pause. The cruiser landed with a low hum, dust spiraling around its landing legs. Kayla stepped out into the cold, dry air. Her boots crunched on the debris-strewn ground. She moved carefully among the ruins, scanning the area for anything that could indicate how humans had fought. It wasn't long before she found it, a strange pattern in the ruined structures and vehicles. It looked as if the remnants of the battle had been organized with precision, as if someone had planned each move carefully. Kayla crouched beside a scorched vehicle and examined the scorch marks. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. They didn't match the Voron weapon patterns, nor did they fit the standard alien tactics recorded in the military archives. They were clever, Kayla whispered, almost to herself. A part of her mind refused to admit it. But another part, the part that had always been fascinated by battles and strategy, shivered with excitement. She walked further into the battlefield, discovering makeshift fortifications that seemed to have been built in minutes yet, with perfect efficiency. She noticed signs of traps and ambushes, patterns of movement that were highly strategic. Whoever had fought here had been intelligent, adaptive, and fearless. Humans, she muttered again, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity in her voice. Could they really have been this skilled? Kayla's comm link buzzed. It was her commanding officer. "Report, Kayla, what have you found?" She stood straight, dusting off her uniform. "Sir, I have arrived at the site. The battlefield shows unusual strategy patterns. Evidence suggests that whoever fought here had incredible skill. I am collecting more data for analysis. Be careful," the officer warned. "This area may still have remnants of automated defenses." "Do not engage if there is any threat," Kayla smiled. "Understood, sir." As she moved deeper into the ruins, she came across a partially intact human data recorder. The metal casing was dented and scorched, but the internal mechanisms were still functional. She wiped the dust from it and activated it. A holographic projection flickered to life, a recorded message from a human officer. Kayla froze as the projection spoke in a calm, confident tone, recounting a battle she could barely imagine. The human commander described how they had faced an army larger than their own, yet through clever maneuvers, careful planning, and sheer courage, they had turned the battle in their favor. The projection even showed holographic maps of ambush points and counterattacks. Every detail was precise, calculated, and daring. Kayla felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't myth. This wasn't exaggeration. This was truth. Humans had been extraordinary. Her thoughts were interrupted by movement in the distance. At first, she thought it was a trick of the light, but then she saw it, shapes moving across the canyon ridges. Kayla's instincts kicked in. She crouched behind a piece of debris and raised her scanner. The shapes were alien, unlike any species she had cataloged. The AI spoke. Unknown life forms detected. Movement patterns suggest potential hostility. Kayla's heart raced. "Show me," she whispered. The scanner projected the figures. They were armored, fast, and organized, clearly a military unit. But the details were unfamiliar. These were not Voron. These were something else, something dangerous. Kayla knew she had to be careful. She retreated to higher ground, observing silently as the group moved through the ruins. She could see their advanced tactics, coordinated maneuvers, quick retreats, and sudden strikes. They were efficient and ruthless. Kayla's mind raced. If these aliens discovered her alone, she would not survive. She needed a plan, and she needed to understand them before making a move. Hours passed as she watched the unknown force. They seemed to be searching for something, scanning the ruins and marking certain areas. Kayla noticed a pattern. It mirrored the battle strategies recorded in the human data recorder. Whoever had fought here long ago had left a blueprint of sorts, guiding the movements of those who came after. Kayla's disbelief shifted into fascination. Humans had not only survived, they had influenced strategies that others still followed. She felt a mix of awe and envy. How could a species so small and physically weaker leave such a lasting mark? Night fell on the planet and the air grew colder. Kayla activated her suit's thermal shielding and continued her observations. She realized that the legends she had mocked as a child were more than just stories. Humans were not just warriors. They were survivors, innovators, and legends who had shaped the galaxy in ways no one could ignore. As she prepared to return to the cruiser, Kayla's mind could not stop racing. She had laughed at the stories of human warriors for years, but now she had seen evidence. She had walked through their battlefield, analyzed their strategies, and witnessed the remnants of their brilliance. A part of her wondered if humans had been this extraordinary in the past, could there still be warriors like them in the present? Could such beings still exist, hidden somewhere in the galaxy, waiting for the moment to reveal themselves? Kayla did not know the answer, but she felt a spark, a mixture of excitement and anticipation. Whatever she would encounter next, it would challenge everything she thought she knew about humans, warfare, and courage. As she boarded her cruiser, she glanced back at the planet one last time. The ruins stretched out like a silent monument to human ingenuity. Kayla whispered, almost as a promise to herself, "I need to see this for myself. I need to witness a human warrior in battle." The engines roared to life, lifting the cruiser from the dusty surface. Kayla leaned back in her seat, her thoughts racing. For the first time in her life, she felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She had mocked the legends, but now she hungered to see the truth, alive, moving, and unstoppable. Little did she know her journey was only beginning. Somewhere beyond the stars, a human warrior waited, ready to challenge her beliefs and prove that legends were not born from exaggeration. They were forged in the fire of real battles, by courage that no alien could imitate. Kayla's eyes glowed softly in the dim light of the cruiser's cabin. She was no longer just a skeptic. She was a seeker, a witness in training, drawn toward a truth that would change her forever. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, fate was quietly preparing the moment when she would finally meet the human warrior, who would leave her stunned, awed, and forever changed. Kayla sat in the cockpit of her cruiser, her hands resting lightly on the control panel. The planet below faded into the blackness of space, but her mind remained anchored to the battlefield she had just explored. The ruins, the patterns, the scorched remains of human ingenuity. All of it haunted her thoughts. She had mocked the legends of humans for years, yet now she felt a mixture of awe and disbelief. The ship's AI broke her reverie. "Commander Kayla, sensors detect unusual activity in a nearby system. Multiple unidentified vessels are approaching at high velocity. They display combat-ready formations." Kayla's violet eyes narrowed. "Show me." The display flickered, revealing several sleek, dark ships moving with deadly precision. They were unlike any Voron design she had ever seen. Each ship was compact, fast, and armed with weapons calibrated for maximum destruction. "Unknown species?" she asked, her voice calm but tense. "Classification inconclusive," the AI replied. "Threat level high. Engagement probable." Kayla's heart beat faster. She had trained for countless combat scenarios, But the thought of facing an unknown species always carried a thrill, mixed with danger. She adjusted her seat and activated the tactical display. Prepare countermeasures. Keep a record of their formation patterns. I want every move analyzed. The cruiser shuddered as the first of the unknown ships entered their system's outer perimeter. Kayla's fingers danced across the controls, launching sensor probes and scanning their weapons arrays. The vessels moved with extraordinary coordination, flanking each other and adapting as they approached. It was clear these attackers were experienced warriors. They move like they have a plan, Kayla said aloud. Not mindless attackers, but disciplined soldiers. The AI projected a three-dimensional map of the approaching ships. Kayla studied the patterns carefully. Each maneuver, each shift in formation, suggested a level of strategy that reminded her uncomfortably of the human tactics she had seen in the ancient battle records. A small part of her mind whispered the impossible thought. Could these attackers be connected to the humans whose battlefield she had explored? Impossible, she muttered. Humans haven't been seen for decades. Still, Kayla could not shake the feeling that she was on the verge of witnessing something extraordinary. The first volley of energy blasts struck the cruiser's shields. Lights flashed across the control panel and alarms rang out. Kayla's training kicked in instantly. She maneuvered the ship with precision, dodging the incoming fire and returning calculated bursts from her own weapons array. The battle began in earnest. Kayla's cruiser weaved between the enemy ships, her mind racing to anticipate their next move. Each time she thought she had predicted their pattern, they adapted, striking with new tactics. The unknown pilots were clever, ruthless, and fearless. As the fight continued, Kayla felt a strange admiration for her opponents. She had always considered humans the ultimate warriors of legend, but now she wondered if there were others across the galaxy who could rival that legacy. Her pride in the Voran Combat Academy's training wavered. She realized that survival was not just about strength or technology. It was about intelligence, creativity, and the courage to face impossible odds. Then, suddenly, one of the enemy ships faltered. A precision strike from her weapons array caused it to spin out of control, engines flaring. Kayla's eyes widened. That brief success gave her hope, but she knew the battle was far from over. The AI interrupted her thoughts. Commander Kayla, a distress signal is being emitted from the planet below. Origin, human ship. Signal content, tactical request for assistance. Kayla froze. A human ship? After all this time? Could it be possible that a human warrior still existed fighting in the galaxy? Her pulse quickened. This was the moment she had been waiting for, whether she had known it or not. Plot a course, she said firmly, her voice steady despite the excitement building inside her. Take us down to the planet immediately. I need to see this for myself. The cruiser dropped through the atmosphere of the planet, descending into a canyon where the signal originated. Kayla's sensors picked up a single vessel, small, armored, and moving with incredible agility. The ship was damaged but still operational, evading attacks with ease. Kayla's heart pounded. She had heard the legends, studied the records, and even walked the battlefield where humans had once fought. But seeing a human vessel in action was different. It was real, alive, and dangerous. The human ship fired back at the unknown attackers, each shot precise, deliberate, and devastatingly effective. Kayla could see the strategy in every maneuver. The human was not just reacting, he was controlling the battlefield, turning chaos into opportunity. She felt a mixture of awe and disbelief. So this is what they were talking about, she whispered. This is a human warrior. The unknown ships tried to overwhelm the human vessel, attacking from multiple angles. But the human anticipated each move. He used the terrain of the canyon, bounced his ship between rock formations, and set traps that lured the enemy into vulnerable positions. Each strike he made was calculated, each retreat strategic. Kayla realized she was watching history repeat itself. Humans even now could face impossible odds and survive. Their courage, intelligence, and adaptability were more than legends, they were reality. Her comlink buzzed. Commander Kayla, Voran fleet is en route to assist you. Do you wish to engage the unknown forces or hold position? Kayla hesitated. Her instincts told her to wait, to let the fleet handle it. But curiosity and the desire to witness the human warrior's tactics firsthand urged her to act. I will hold position, she replied. I need to see this human fight alone. Record everything, the AI confirmed. Understood, Commander. Minutes passed, each more intense than the last. The human vessel darted, spun, and struck with precision, gradually turning the tide. Kayla's skepticism faded completely, replaced by awe and respect. She had doubted humans, laughed at the legends, and even felt superior in her training. But none of that mattered now. This human was extraordinary. Finally, the remaining enemy ships retreated. The human vessel hovered in the canyon, damaged but triumphant. Kayla activated her shuttle and moved closer, her eyes fixed on the pilot's figure through the viewport. She could see him now, a tall man with a calm expression, his movements confident yet deliberate. Every action reflected skill, courage, and experience. Kayla felt a strange pull, respect, curiosity, and something she couldn't name. She realized that the legends had been right. Humans were not just fighters. They were warriors whose courage and ingenuity could change the course of any battle. The human landed his vessel nearby, stepping out with steady movements. Kayla watched him approach, noting the way he assessed the battlefield, checking every detail, every potential threat. There was no arrogance in his actions, only precision, confidence, and readiness. Kayla's voice was barely audible. I cannot believe it. Humans, they really are like the stories. The human looked up and noticed her cruiser. He raised a hand in greeting, his expression calm, almost inviting trust. Kayla's pulse quickened. She had expected fearsome enemies, but what she saw was someone extraordinary in a different way. Courage, intelligence, and skill radiated from him without the need for display. Kayla stepped out of her cruiser, careful but determined. I am Kayla, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. I've heard the legends of human warriors, but I never thought I'd witness one myself. The human's gaze was steady, his eyes meeting hers. Legends often hide truth, he said simply. But sometimes the truth is stronger than the stories. Kayla nodded, feeling a mix of humility and excitement. For the first time in her life, she realized that humans were more than just a species of myth. They were living proof of courage, strategy, and determination. And now, standing before one, she understood that her journey had only just begun. She knew she had to learn from him, observe, and understand. This human warrior would teach her more than any academy ever could, and in the battles ahead, Kayla understood that everything she thought she knew about strength, skill, and bravery would be challenged and reshaped. As the sun set behind the jagged canyon walls, Kayla stood in silence, watching the human prepare his next move. She had doubted, laughed, and dismissed, but now she was a witness, and from this moment forward, nothing would ever be the same. Kayla stepped carefully through the rocky canyon, her eyes fixed on the human warrior before her. Commander Ethan moved with calm precision, inspecting the battlefield even after the recent skirmish. His armor was scratched and scorched in places, evidence of the danger he had faced, yet he stood tall and steady. Kayla felt a strange mixture of respect and curiosity. She had come here thinking humans were myths, weak and primitive, but the reality was completely different. I've never seen anyone fight like that, she admitted softly, almost to herself. Not even in the academy records. Ethan glanced at her, his gaze calm but sharp. Most don't, he said simply. We survive because we adapt. Because we observe and act, not because we are stronger. Kayla blinked. Adapt, observe, act. The words were simple, but she understood their weight. Humans did not rely on sheer strength or advanced technology alone. They relied on intelligence, strategy, and courage. And in Ethan, those qualities were alive, evident in every movement and decision. Why are you here alone? Kayla asked, curious. After all this time, where are the others? Ethan's expression grew serious. I am alone because sometimes battles are not about numbers. They are about choices, timing, and knowing what must be done. I follow the path that ensures survival and victory. Others, they often cannot. Kayla nodded slowly. She had trained in countless simulations, practiced in squads, and mastered weapons far beyond human levels. Yet standing here watching Ethan, she realized that skill alone was not enough. Humans had something more, something instinctive, fearless, and precise. The ground trembled suddenly. Kayla's sensors detected a second wave of enemy ships entering the canyon's outer perimeter. The unknown aliens were relentless, clearly determined to destroy anything that stood in their way. Ethan's eyes narrowed. They've learned, he said. Good, let them. We'll use it against them. Kayla raised an eyebrow. Use what against them? Predictability, Ethan replied with a faint smile. Every species has a pattern. Every warrior repeats certain movements under pressure. Once you recognize the pattern, you can turn it into advantage. Kayla's pulse quickened. She had heard tactical theory in the academy, but she had never seen it applied so effortlessly in live combat. Ethan was not just reacting. He was controlling, anticipating, and manipulating the enemy. The first ship approached, banking sharply to attack. Ethan moved his vessel with a sudden twist, using the canyon walls as cover. The alien ship's weapons fired blindly, hitting nothing but rock. Ethan counterattacked, striking a weak point in the enemy's armor, causing it to spiral out of control. Kayla's eyes widened as she observed the sequence. You see? Ethan said calmly. They think faster, but they don't think ahead. That is where we gain the upper hand. Kayla realized he was not boasting. He was teaching, silently demonstrating the principles of human combat. She took careful notes in her mind, analyzing each movement, each choice, each tactical decision. She had always believed humans were lucky fighters, relying on instinct alone. But here she saw a method, a discipline, and a cunning that defied her expectations. Hours passed as the battle continued. The canyon became a living chessboard, with Ethan maneuvering his ship, drawing the enemy into traps and striking with precise timing. Kayla followed his every move, her admiration growing. She had laughed at the legends once, but now she understood. Humans were not just brave. They were masters of strategy, capable of turning even hopeless situations into victories. Finally, the enemy retreated again, their ships damaged and scattered. Ethan's vessel hovered in the canyon, his systems battered but functional. Kayla stepped closer, unable to hide her curiosity. Why do humans fight like this? She asked. Why not just rely on weapons and numbers? Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. Because survival is never guaranteed. Strength alone does not win wars. Courage alone does not win wars. Strategy, intelligence, and adaptability. These are what turn the tide. Kayla nodded slowly. She had been raised to value strength above all else, believing that Voran warriors were the pinnacle of combat. But standing here watching Ethan, she realized how wrong she had been. Humans were not weaker, they were different. Their strength was subtle in their minds and their hearts, not just in their bodies. She felt a spark of something unfamiliar: respect, curiosity, and even inspiration. She wanted to learn, to understand, to see how humans could achieve what she had thought impossible. Ethan turned to her then, his gaze steady. You've watched enough, he said. Now you will learn. Stay close, observe carefully, and remember, combat is as much about thinking as it is about fighting. Kayla nodded, her heart racing. She had trained for years, mastered countless tactics, yet she knew she had much to learn. And for the first time, she felt a sense of humility, not weakness, but awareness. The human before her was not just a warrior, he was a teacher, a living proof of a species whose courage and ingenuity transcended legend. As night fell over the canyon, Kayla followed Ethan to a small, hidden outpost where he had taken refuge. The base was compact, efficient, and fortified using clever techniques that blended human engineering with environmental advantages. Kayla noticed traps, escape routes, and defensive measures she had never seen before. This is impressive, she admitted. Even with limited resources, you've made this nearly impossible to breach. Ethan smiled faintly. Humans are nothing if not resourceful. We make use of what we have, turn disadvantages into strengths. That is how we survive. Kayla studied him closely, realizing that the calm demeanor and steady confidence she saw were not arrogance. They were born from countless battles, countless decisions where lives hung in the balance. She had always believed courage was a simple emotion, but Ethan's courage was quiet, intelligent, and controlled. Over the next few hours, Kayla observed Ethan preparing for the next wave of attackers. He repaired his vessel, analyzed enemy patterns, and adjusted strategies for defense and offense. Every action was deliberate, every decision calculated. Kayla felt herself growing more and more captivated. She had laughed at the idea of human warriors, yet now she could not imagine facing an enemy without understanding their methods. Humans were not only brave, they were thinkers, planners, and risk-takers who could transform danger into opportunity. Her mind wandered briefly to her academy training. She had excelled in simulations, impressed her instructors, and mastered techniques designed to defeat superior opponents. Yet standing here watching Ethan, she realized that knowledge alone was not enough. Humans possessed an instinctive brilliance, a way of reading the battlefield and responding that no simulation could replicate. Suddenly, her sensors detected another movement. A scout ship from the enemy fleet had returned. It was faster, more cunning than before. Kayla's heart raced. The next battle was coming, and she knew that observing would not be enough. Ethan noticed her tension. "Do not fear," he said calmly. "Fear clouds judgment. Watch, learn, and act when needed. That is the key." Kayla nodded, focusing intently on the approaching ship. She noticed how Ethan anticipated its path, how he used the canyon walls for cover, and how he set subtle traps that the enemy did not detect until it was too late. The scout ship approached, firing its weapons blindly, yet every attack was avoided with precision. Ethan's counterattacks were surgical, targeting weak points that Kayla's sensors highlighted but her mind could hardly comprehend in real time. After several minutes, the scout ship retreated, severely damaged. Kayla's pulse began to slow. She realized she had just witnessed yet another display of human mastery, a combination of intelligence, courage, and quick decision-making that defied expectations. "Remarkable," she whispered. This is the truth behind the legends. Humans really are like this." Ethan looked at her, expression calm but knowing. "Legends are born from truth," he said simply. "Stories are only exaggerations when humans fail to be remembered correctly. But when we survive, adapt, and triumph, the stories become reality." Kayla felt a surge of admiration. She had come here to observe, to collect data, to confirm what she had always assumed, that humans were weak. Instead, she found herself humbled, inspired, and determined. She wanted to learn from Ethan, to understand the human approach to battle, and perhaps to apply it herself. For the first time in her life, Kayla realized that humans were not just a species to be studied. They were a force to be understood, respected, and, if fortunate, allied with. As the night deepened over the canyon, Kayla stood beside Ethan, watching the stars above and the quiet battlefield below. She knew the journey ahead would challenge everything she had been taught, everything she had believed. But she was ready. Ready to learn, ready to witness, and ready to see the human warrior's legend unfold before her eyes. And in that moment, Kayla understood something profound. The stories she had laughed at were not mere tales. They were warnings, lessons, and inspiration. A reminder that courage, intelligence, and resilience could create legends that would echo through the galaxy forever. The canyon was quiet for a brief moment, but Kayla knew it would not last. Commander Ethan had anticipated the calm, using it to repair his ship and prepare for the inevitable return of the enemy forces. Kayla watched him work, fascinated by his efficiency. Every movement was precise, deliberate, and purposeful. He was not just a fighter. He was a strategist, a teacher, and a living legend. "You should train with me," Ethan said suddenly, breaking the silence. "Observing is not enough. To survive in battle, you must think like a human, anticipate like a human, and act like a human." Kayla raised an eyebrow. "Train with you? You mean you'll teach me?" Ethan nodded. "I will. But know this, human combat is not just about weapons. It is about mindset, discipline, courage, adaptability. If you are willing, you will learn faster than you think." Kayla felt a surge of excitement. She had come to this planet to scout and observe, but now she had an opportunity she had never imagined. To learn from a human warrior. She nodded firmly. "I'm ready." The training began immediately. Ethan led Kayla to a cleared section of the canyon where they could practice without interference. He started with the basics, showing her how to move efficiently in rocky terrain, how to use cover effectively, and how to anticipate an opponent's moves. Kayla was surprised at how different human tactics were from Voran methods. "You rely too much on strength," Ethan explained. "Humans rely on intelligence, observation, timing. Every move has a purpose. Every pause is calculated." Kayla followed his instructions, trying to adopt his mindset. At first it felt awkward. She was used to direct, forceful combat, relying on reflexes and raw skill. But Ethan's methods were subtle, strategic, and precise. Slowly, Kayla began to understand. She learned to see the battlefield as a living entity, where every element could be used to one's advantage. Hours turned into days. Ethan continued to challenge her, creating simulations that mimicked real battles. Kayla learned to predict enemy movements, to set traps, and to react with precision under pressure. She began to feel the change within herself. Her mind was sharper, her instincts quicker, and her respect for human ingenuity deeper than ever. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the canyon walls, Ethan approached her. "You've improved," he said. "But now comes the real test. The enemy is regrouping. They will strike again, bigger and stronger. Are you ready to face them?" Kyla felt a mix of fear and excitement. "I think I am," she replied. "But I will follow your lead." The night was dark, the canyon shadows stretching long and threatening. Suddenly, sensors detected the enemy fleet approaching in force. Kayla's heart pounded, but she kept her focus. She had trained, observed, and prepared. Now it was time to see human combat in full action. Ethan moved first, positioning his ship strategically among the canyon ridges. Kayla followed, keeping her vessel close, observing every detail. The enemy fleet advanced with confidence, expecting an easy victory. But they had underestimated the human warrior they faced. The battle began with blinding energy blasts and sharp maneuvers. Kayla watched as Ethan anticipated every strike, dodging attacks with precision and countering with tactics that seemed impossible. He used the terrain, the enemy's predictability, and even the smallest environmental details to his advantage. Kayla was amazed. Every move Ethan made was calculated, every decision measured. She had never seen such mastery in combat. The legends had not done justice to the reality. Humans were not just brave, they were brilliant. As the battle intensified, Kayla was called to act. Ethan had positioned her to assist, testing her newly learned skills. She moved with purpose, using cover and anticipating enemy movements as he had taught her. At first, she hesitated, but as the seconds passed, she began to flow with the rhythm of the battle. Together, they struck at the enemy fleet. Kayla realized that human combat was not about fighting alone, but about coordination, trust, and shared strategy. Every move she made was amplified by Ethan's presence, and every action he took was enhanced by her support. The enemy tried to adapt, but Ethan was always one step ahead. He anticipated their tactics, manipulated their movements, and forced them into vulnerable positions. Kayla watched in awe as he turned a hopeless situation into an opportunity for victory. Hours passed in a blur of movement, strategy, and intense focus. The enemy fleet was pushed back, damaged, and scattered. Kayla's heart raced, but a new feeling had taken hold. Pride. She had fought alongside a human warrior, witnessed his genius, and contributed to the outcome. She was no longer just an observer. She was part of the legend she had once doubted. After the battle, Ethan's ship landed in a hidden canyon base. Kayla followed him inside, her mind still buzzing from the intensity of the fight. Ethan began assessing the damage, repairing systems, and planning for the future. "You did well," he said, glancing at her. "You've learned quickly. But remember, this is only the beginning. Human combat is not just about victories. It's about preparation, observation, and continuous learning." Kayla nodded, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. "I understand. I never realized. Humans are more than what I imagined." "More than legends," Ethan smiled faintly. "Legends are born from truth," he said. "You've seen it. Now you know it. And one day you may teach it yourself." Kayla felt a deep sense of respect. She had laughed at the stories, mocked the idea of human warriors, and doubted their skill. But now she knew the truth. Humans were extraordinary, not because of physical strength alone, but because of courage, intelligence, and the ability to turn the impossible into reality. The night was calm as Kayla looked at the stars through the canyon's opening. She thought about the battles she had seen, the strategies she had learned, and the warrior who had changed her perspective forever. She realized that human courage was not a myth. It was alive, tangible, and inspiring. Ethan approached her, his expression serious but calm. "Tomorrow we prepare for the next wave. It will be stronger, more organized. Are you ready to face it?" Kayla took a deep breath. "I am ready," she said firmly. "I've learned much from you, and I will continue to learn." "Humans, they are incredible," Ethan nodded. "Then rest tonight. Tomorrow you will see the full strength of what it means to fight like a human warrior." As Kayla settled down for the night, she reflected on her journey so far. She had arrived as a skeptic, laughing at the tales of human warriors. She had witnessed their skill, observed their strategy, and now trained alongside one of the finest she had ever seen. Her mind was filled with possibilities. Humans were not only capable of surviving the most dangerous battles, they could teach, inspire, and change perspectives. Kayla realized that the galaxy held truths she had never imagined, and humans were at the center of many of them. Sleep came slowly, her thoughts lingering on the day's events and the lessons she had learned. She dreamed not of fear but of courage, strategy, and the incredible potential of humans. She had laughed at legends, but now she understood. Legends were born from reality, from the skill, bravery, and resilience of those who faced impossible odds and triumphed. Kayla knew that tomorrow would bring another battle, another challenge, and another opportunity to witness the genius of the human warrior, and she was ready. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of purpose, not just as a Voran officer, but as someone who had been touched by the truth behind the legends. She would fight, learn, and survive, and through it all, she would witness what it truly meant to be a human warrior. The morning sun cast long shadows across the canyon as Kayla and Ethan prepared for the approaching enemy fleet. The battle would be unlike any they had faced before. Intelligence reports indicated that the aliens were bringing reinforcements, larger ships, and advanced weaponry. This would be the ultimate test, not just for Ethan, but for Kayla as well. Kayla adjusted her armor and checked her equipment carefully. She had trained with Ethan for days, learning to anticipate enemy movements, understand human strategy, and act with precision. Still, a part of her felt tension. She knew this battle would be intense and failure was not an option. Ethan approached, his expression calm but focused. "Remember what you've learned," he said. "Observation, strategy, anticipation, but most importantly, trust yourself. You have the skill. Now show it." Kayla nodded. "I will. I'm ready." The fleet arrived swiftly, their ships moving in coordinated formations. The aliens expected to overwhelm the defenders with numbers and firepower, but Ethan's calm confidence unnerved them. Kayla watched as he analyzed their positions, identified weak points, and formulated a plan on the spot. The first wave of attacks hit with blinding energy blasts. Kayla's ship moved instinctively, dodging fire and striking at vulnerable points just as Ethan had taught her. She felt the rhythm of the battle, the flow of action and reaction, and the clarity of mind that came with understanding human strategy. Ethan's movements were precise, almost like a dance. Every twist, turn, and counterattack was intentional. Kayla followed closely, anticipating his maneuvers and providing support where needed. Together, they became a coordinated force, blending human ingenuity with her own skill and training. The enemy pressed harder, launching multiple assaults simultaneously. Kayla felt the adrenaline surge, but she focused on the lessons Ethan had taught her. She predicted attacks, set traps, and struck decisively. The alien ships faltered as they encountered tactics they could not anticipate. Ethan called out instructions calmly, his voice steady amid chaos. "Focus on the flanks. Use the terrain. Draw them in and strike together." Kayla followed without hesitation. She used the canyon walls for cover, maneuvered around obstacles, and targeted the weak points in the enemy formation. Each success built her confidence, and she began to understand the true power of human combat. Precision, strategy, and courage combined. The battle intensified. Alien ships fired relentlessly, but Ethan and Kayla used every advantage available. Kayla realized that human warriors did not simply fight, they controlled the battlefield. Every movement, every strike, every decision was part of a larger plan. She felt a deep sense of respect and admiration for the human warrior who had taught her this. At one point, an enormous enemy vessel advanced toward their position. Its weapons fired continuously, creating a wall of destruction. Kayla's ship was nearly hit, but she dodged at the last moment, guided by Ethan's directions. "Now," Ethan shouted. "Target the engines, hit them together." Kayla fired her weapons precisely at the vulnerable points Ethan indicated. At the same time, Ethan's ship struck with pinpoint accuracy. The enemy vessel's engines exploded, causing it to spin out of control and crash into the canyon walls. Kayla's heart raced with exhilaration. She had contributed to a decisive strike, following the human warrior's guidance and applying what she had learned. The battle raged on, each moment testing Kayla's skills and courage. She had trained, she had observed, and now she was fighting alongside a human warrior. The experience was unlike anything she had imagined. The legends she had once laughed at were not myths. They were reality, alive and powerful in Ethan's actions. Finally, after hours of relentless combat, the enemy fleet began to retreat. Their formations were broken, their ships damaged, and their strategy exposed. Kayla watched as Ethan directed the remaining forces, ensuring that no vessel escaped to regroup. The canyon grew silent once more, the echoes of battle fading. Kayla's body ached, but her mind was sharp. She realized she had witnessed not just a human warrior in action, but the essence of human courage, intelligence, and resilience. Ethan landed his ship nearby, and Kayla followed. The ground was scorched, debris scattered, but victory had been achieved. She felt a mix of exhaustion, pride, and awe. "You did well," Ethan said, his voice calm but filled with approval. "You fought like a human today. You thought, you acted, you survived. That is what it means to be a warrior." Kayla looked at him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and amazement. "I never imagined humans could be like this. Not just brave, but brilliant, strategic, fearless," Ethan nodded. "We are not perfect. We make mistakes, we take risks, but we survive. We adapt. That is the essence of our strength. And today you saw it firsthand." Kayla felt a profound respect for the human warrior beside her. She had arrived as a skeptic, dismissing the stories and legends. Now, after training, fighting, and surviving alongside him, she understood the truth. Humans were not just fighters. They were masters of strategy, courage, and resilience. As the sun set over the canyon, Kayla walked beside Ethan, reflecting on the journey she had taken. She had laughed at the legends, doubted their validity, and even felt superior in her own training. Yet the reality she had witnessed had changed everything. Humans were extraordinary, not in physical strength alone, but in their minds, hearts, and actions. "You've changed my perspective," Kayla admitted softly. "I thought humans were myths, weak and primitive. Now I see. They are warriors like no other. Their courage, intelligence, and adaptability. It's remarkable." Ethan looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "Legends exist for a reason. They remind us what is possible, what can be achieved when courage and intelligence come together. Today you saw that truth," Kayla nodded. She felt a sense of completion and growth. She had doubted, observed, trained, and fought. And through it all, she had witnessed the power of a human warrior. She realized that the stories were not exaggerations. They were warnings, inspirations, and lessons meant to endure across generations. The night grew darker, and Kayla knew the battles were not over. There would always be new threats, new challenges, and new opportunities to test her skills. But now she carried something more valuable than experience: knowledge, respect, and the understanding of what it truly meant to be a human warrior. Ethan stood beside her, looking up at the stars. "You've learned well," he said. "But remember, this is only the beginning. True warriors never stop learning. The galaxy is vast and challenges are endless. Courage, intelligence, and resilience, these are your allies forever." Kayla felt a sense of resolve. She had witnessed the truth, trained with a master, and survived a battle that had seemed impossible. She was no longer just a Voran officer. She was a witness, a student, and a participant in the legacy of human warriors. As she looked at Ethan, she realized that the laughter and doubt she had carried were gone. In their place were admiration, inspiration, and determination. Humans were not myths. They were legends, alive and thriving, capable of shaping the fate of the galaxy with courage, intelligence, and unwavering resolve. The canyon was silent now, save for the gentle hum of their ships. Kayla took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what she had experienced. She had laughed at legends once, but now she understood them completely. She had seen courage, skill, and intelligence in action. She had learned from a human warrior, and she knew that she would carry this lesson for the rest of her life. Ethan glanced at her, his eyes calm but full of understanding. "Are you ready for what comes next?" he asked. Kayla smiled, her heart steady and her mind clear. "Yes," she replied. "I am ready, and I will never forget what it means to fight like a human." The stars above the canyon shone brightly, reflecting the infinite possibilities of the universe. Kayla and Ethan stood together, two warriors from different worlds united by courage, strategy, and respect. The battle had ended, but the legacy of human warriors, the truth behind the legends, would continue to inspire all who witnessed it. And for Kayla, the journey had only just begun. She had laughed, doubted, trained, and fought, but now she understood. Humans were extraordinary. They were legends alive in the present, shaping the future and proving that courage and intelligence could conquer even the greatest challenges.